Friday night. One of those evenings that's supposed to be simple. A cozy restaurant on Pearl Street, soft lighting, wine pouring slowly, as if time has no reason to rush. We're sitting at a big round table. Me, Zach, his parents Bob and Karen from Boise, Idaho, and my mom Linda, who flew in from Seattle. Officially a family dinner. In reality, a minefield with white napkins. The waiter places a glass of red Pinot Noir in front of me. I thank him, nod, and take a sip. Zach sits beside me tense, like a tightly wound string. He's dressed perfectly, as always collar crisp, eyes on his plate. I can feel him rehearsing everything in his head. Not for the first time. Only now, with an audience. Karen is talking about a political ad she saw on Fox News. My mom presses her lips together in silence. I pretend to listen, watching the candle flicker inside the glass holder. My pulse is steady. Because I already know what's coming. And then he says it. His voice wavers slightly, but he holds it together. Haley, we need to talk. I think we should separate. He says it like he's doing me a favor, like he's about to offer a fair business deal. His smile is tight, eyes flick to his parents, almost expecting approval. Bob gives a barely visible nod. Karen lowers her eyes to the menu, as if she didn't hear. I take another sip of wine. Slowly, deliberately, I inhale. And reply, "That's funny, because I already filed 2 weeks ago." For a second, complete silence. Even the waiter passing by seems to freeze. Time hangs in the air like a dropped glass about to fall, but not yet. Zach looks at me like I've just pulled the script out of his hands. He blinks. You what? I filed. For divorce. 2 weeks ago. I smile, not smugly, just calm, like I'm reading the weather forecast. My mom eats her salad like she's heard this before. Because she has. She knew. Didn't judge, didn't argue. Just said, "Baby, you've been keeping that ship afloat alone for too long." Karen raises an eyebrow. Bob coughs awkwardly. Zach slowly lowers his fork. You blindsided me. I shrug. You're the one who picked this restaurant, Zach. I don't raise my voice. I don't make a scene. This isn't revenge. This is the final act of a play where I finally got my own line. And I chose to say it first. He tries to speak, but the words don't come. He had a plan. He was going to look noble, honest, mature. Suggest a friendly split. Maybe win parental approval. Now he's just an audience member. I pick up my napkin, dab the corners of my mouth. Look him in the eye. I didn't blindside you, Zach. I just stopped waiting for you to wake up. Silence at the table. Karen pretends to study her wine. Bob asks for the check. My mom looks at me with that small smile I remember from childhood, the one she gave me when I passed my first math test without a tutor. That same smile. Respect. No fuss. I'm the first to stand up. Thanks for dinner. I think this check's on you. And I walk out. Outside on Pearl Street, the air is cool but not sharp. The night is just beginning. For the first time in a long while, I feel light, not euphoric. Just no longer carrying someone else's weight. No masks, no expectations. My phone buzzes, unknown number. I answer. A man's voice. Jordan, can we talk? And I smile. Because I already know the answer. To be honest, it didn't start that Friday at dinner. It didn't start when Zach said, I think we should separate. And definitely not when I told him I had already filed for divorce. It started about 9 months earlier. In February. The day I first heard him say, You've become tense. Maybe work is taking away your femininity. I didn't respond. I just looked at him. For a long time. As if trying to see if the man I once chose was still in there somewhere. Zach was in his self-discovery phase. He had quit coffee, started jogging in the mornings, switched to an e-bike, listened to Stoicism podcasts, and read The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, like it was scripture. He was building muscle at the gym and posting stories with captions like, growth isn't linear. All of it wrapped in the subtle narrative that he was becoming special, and I was still just ordinary. He worked in finance at a local firm. Nothing revolutionary reports, numbers, budgets. But recently, he was deep in a midlife rebrand. Instead of evenings together, it was sauna time with the bros. Instead of conversations, motivational quotes on Instagram. Instead of support, quiet jabs. Your job is cool, I guess. But are you sure you want to be the kind of woman who's always on her laptop? It's kind of lonely. Another 8 p.m. call? Maybe get yourself an assistant if you're such a big shot. Sometimes I think you believe more in your career than in us. He wanted a supportive wife. The kind who laughs at all his jokes, smiles at every family dinner, bakes lemon, salmon, and likes his selfies. Sits on the couch while he finds himself. But me? I was a woman with plans. With a budget. With a team. With KPIs. With a mentor. With 3 successful West Coast brand launches behind me. I wasn't the aesthetic. I was the momentum. And for a while, I pretended. Because, oddly enough, love can make us mute. Or foolish. Or too polite. I tried to talk. One night he came back from yoga and put some kind of herbal protein bars on the table. I said, "Zach, I feel like we're not really talking anymore, not deeply." He smirked. "There you go again, always wanting deep talk. I just want some silence." That night, for the first time, I opened Google and typed, "Best divorce lawyers, Portland, OR." Not because I wanted to destroy anything, but because I realized I was alone holding it all together and he didn't even notice. I wrote down a name, Jennifer K. Barnes, saved the number, and deleted our shared Spotify playlist, the one we used to play every morning in the car. In March, I went to see her for an initial consultation. Paid $250 for the hour. Saturday in her Broadway office, looked at her neat folders, and for the first time in a long time, someone listened without interrupting. She asked me one simple question. Do you want to stay, fix, or leave? I answered, I want to stop being the person who's always asked to shrink. I didn't file immediately after that. I watched. Checked how I felt. I listened to how he spoke about me to others. Haley's got a big project. We barely see each other. Career woman. I watched him spend more time with his mirror than with me. Check off his meditation app but not notice I didn't laugh anymore. I simply became a shadow in my own home. And then I decided. Not out of anger. Not out of hurt. Out of clarity. In April, I filed. Told no one, not even my mom, not for a few weeks. I wasn't looking for revenge. I was looking for air. Freedom to be myself. Without condescension. Without apologizing. Without the you work too much. Zach didn't notice. He kept getting closer to himself. And so did I. And that was the most honest thing I did in our entire marriage. It all happened on a Thursday. I remember exactly because that was the day I got a call from our headquarters office in San Francisco. I was standing by the coffee machine in the kitchen, wearing a workout tank top, hair unwashed, a typical morning working remotely. On the screen, a Zoom call from Lauren, our SVP of Global Marketing, was flashing. I thought it would be just another routine thing. But when I hit accept, her face was glowing. Haley, you know how much we appreciate your work. We have a proposal. Could you take on the global launch of our platform in Europe and APAC? It's a huge project. Headquarters in San Francisco, flights to London and Sydney, teams across 3 continents. This is yours. I remember my heart pounding. Not from fear, from recognition. From the feeling that someone finally saw my full worth, not just through the lens of a woman who should be a little quieter. I answered, yes, 100% yes. Then, I told Zach about it. We were at home. He was sitting in the kitchen, stretching a wristband, listening to some Joe Rogan podcast in his AirPods. I sat across from him, eager to share with genuine excitement, with the kind of emotion you want to share with someone close. Zach, they offered me to lead a global project. It's scale, it's trust, it's everything I've worked toward for the last 6 years. He pulled out one AirPod, looked at me, and said, "You're obsessed with work. Maybe you should just marry your damn job." Silence. Even the fridge seemed to hush. I didn't yell, didn't throw a cup at him, didn't get up and leave. In that moment I understood. He's not a partner, he's a burden. He's the one who doesn't celebrate your victories because they're too bright, too loud, not about him. He's the one who holds you back not out of malice, but because he's small. Small in ambition, in perspective, in generosity of heart. I went to the bedroom, closed the door, laid down on the bed, and gave myself exactly 10 minutes to cry. After that, I got up, changed into running shoes, went for a run. I ran past Washington Park, turned onto Burnside, and then headed toward the river. My mind was empty, just silence and a kind of almost childish instinct. Run until it makes sense. When I stopped at the drinking fountain on the corner of 2nd Avenue, right across the street I saw a sign I already knew. Jennifer K. Barnes, family law, divorce, custody. A white door, a green sign, glass windows. I hadn't planned to go there that day, but my feet turned on their own. I walked in. The receptionist looked up. "Miss Mackenzie?" I nodded. "She can see you in 10. 10 minutes later, I was sitting across from Jennifer, in running shoes, face flushed from the run, but with a clarity in my eyes I probably never had before. I'm ready. Let's start the process. He doesn't know, and let him not know. For now." Jennifer just nodded. No surprise. Because for her, this wasn't the first time a woman came in workout clothes but with the face of a commander. We filed the paperwork for a preliminary filing. I signed the papers, put them in a folder, and walked back out into the spring Portland where the sun was already breaking through the clouds. The next day, I smiled at breakfast, made myself coffee, watched Zach make his protein shake and listened to gratitude meditations. He didn't know I had already left. He just still happened to be under the same roof. Back to the dinner. Friday evening. The Corner Room restaurant on Pearl Street in Portland. Cozy, dimly lit, perfect truffle gnocchi, a table for 6, booked 2 weeks in advance. I wore my quiet dress green, slightly fitted, long sleeves. It always works when you need to look put together, but not flashy. We were sitting, me, Zach, his parents from Boise, my mom Nancy, and of course the tension so thick you could cut it with a knife. Zach had been nervous from the start. He ordered bourbon, though he usually only drinks IPA. Didn't joke, barely touched his food. I knew where this was heading. He decided this would be his night, his stage, his dignified exit. That he had prepared some speech, rehearsed it in front of the mirror. That he wanted to look manly, honest, noble. He waited for the main course to arrive. Classic move, to have a pause, so no one would be distracted. And then he puts down his fork, takes a deep breath. I can literally hear his internal cue, now. He looks at everyone, then at me. And begins. His voice slightly trembling but holding strong. "Haley, we need to talk. I've been thinking a lot, and I believe we should separate. I just think we've grown in different directions. It's not about blame, it's about honesty. I want us to part with respect." Pause. Zach's mother gasps. His father furrows his brow. My mom is eating cheesecake. I turn to him, pick up my glass of Chardonnay, sip and smile. Slowly, almost pityingly, and say, "That's funny, because I already filed 2 weeks ago." I pull an envelope from my purse, thin, with the law firm's logo in the corner. I hand it to Zach like I'm passing him the dinner bill. "This is your copy. You're late to your own breakup." And that's it. At that moment, Zach's face changes. He literally pales, turns grayish pink, like badly brewed tea. His lips move, but no words come out. He didn't expect this. He thought this was his show, but it turned out he was a supporting character in my version. His parents are stunned. His mom immediately starts mumbling something about, couldn't this have been discussed? His dad looks away, and my mom calmly pokes a cherry on her dessert with her fork and says, "Should we get the check?" I look at Zach, and finally say the phrase I'd been holding inside for 9 months. "You were so busy rehearsing your exit, you didn't see I already walked out." He sits there as if he's been knocked out of his own play, and for the first time in a long time, he's truly silent. Not a moment of joy, not of anger, but of liberation. I sit there, staring at my almost untouched risotto, and suddenly realize I no longer feel the weight, only lightness, like I'd just shrugged off a wet coat after a storm. The waiter approaches and asks if we want dessert. I nod. I'll have the chocolate tart, please. And while Zach is still trying to gather himself, I smile at my mom. She smiles back and says, "Proud of you, kid?" It wasn't a false start, it was his fake finale. And for me, just the beginning. It's a strange feeling watching someone who always thought they held the remote control suddenly realize their batteries died a long time ago. The evening after dinner I spent calmly, a glass of wine, a lavender bath, a Netflix show playing, but I wasn't really watching. I was just lying there in silence. True, free silence. But Zach's morning was different. First, the call started. 6 missed calls. Then messages. We should talk. I didn't expect it to go that way. We owe it to each other to have a real conversation. No, Zach, we don't owe each other anything. Especially after you spent years trying to rewrite my script. He didn't know what to do with himself. Then he did what men like him do when their facade crumbles. Collect the pieces of their image. 2 days after that dinner, he posts a photo on LinkedIn from a hike. He's standing alone, on top of a hill in Oregon, looking into the distance, with the caption, "Sometimes the strongest ones walk away first." I read it and laugh. Strong? Zach? He couldn't even take out the trash without passive aggression. My friend Ashley couldn't hold back and left a comment. Or file for divorce first. Timing is everything. The post wasn't deleted, he just turned off comments. The next scene, pure satire. A week later, a column appears in the local online magazine, The Portland Current, titled, "Toxic Breakup of the Week. When your wife leaves before you could make your big speech." No names were mentioned, but those who knew, knew. The article described a typical Texas helmsman, that's what they called him, a man, who thinks he's the captain of the ship but doesn't even realize the helm hasn't been connected for a long time. He made her a tough career woman, but he ended up without an audience for his dramatic scene. My mom sent me a screenshot with the caption, "You've officially gone local celebrity." Zach tried to regain control. He messaged my friends, tried to talk with my mom, even sent a letter to my lawyer about emotional damage and public humiliation. But the damage wasn't from me. Damage is when you spend your whole life building a picture only to realize you were just a prop in someone else's story. The funniest part? He was always afraid of looking weak. But as soon as he lost control of the situation, that's exactly what he became. Not because he made a mistake, but because all he had was a facade, and the facade cracked. Meanwhile, I moved into a new apartment. Small, with white walls and bright shelves, no memories and no male energy. In the kitchen, my favorite quote on the board, "Strong doesn't mean loud, sometimes it means done." And I really am done. Zach, he's not a villain, just a man who spent his life afraid he wouldn't be chosen, and instead of becoming better, he tried to control. I'm just tired of being the one it's convenient to manipulate. So yeah, his LinkedIn post is almost touching. But we both know, the strong don't run away, they leave early, quietly, with papers in hand. I arrived in San Francisco on one of those clear, insanely sunny days when even your suitcases feel like part of a new startup. The Uber pulled up to my new complex on Russian Hill, overlooking the bay with glass balconies. The concierge called me Miss Mackenzie, and for some reason, I liked it. This move wasn't just geographical, it was an internal upgrade, a new SIM card in a life where old messages don't carry over. My new role at HQ San Francisco lead strategy architect for an international product. I used to think big projects were intimidating. But honestly, after the divorce with Zach, nothing really seemed scary anymore. On the third day, I met the team on the rooftop. String lights, wine in plastic cups, and someone playing a Fleetwood Mac cover on a ukulele. And I thought, so this is what it feels like, not needed but wanted. Over time, my blog was born. For a long time, I didn't know what to call it. Then one day, just a regular Thursday, the idea hit me. Filed early. It was not only a pun about filing for divorce, but also about the idea leaving before the breakdown starts. Before you stop being yourself. I posted my first video with the city bathed in golden sunset behind me. In it, I said, I used to think marriage was a safe plan. Turns out, I was the plan. I was the story, the stability, the future someone else leaned on. And when I stopped playing the part, everything fell. Not me, the illusion. The post went viral overnight. Women wrote to me from Austin, New York, Chicago, even Nebraska. I thought I was alone. I left too, and everyone acted like I broke something. You put into words what I've been afraid to feel. Every message felt like a handshake. Gentle, honest, without shame. One woman, a former lawyer from Atlanta, wrote, I filed early. They called me cold. But cold is better than broken. And I realized, we didn't just leave, we got ahead. Now I wake up to the sounds of cable cars, drink coffee on my balcony where basil grows, and start every day thinking, I no longer live in someone else's script. Zach said I think too much. Now I turn my thoughts into strategies for startups worth hundreds of millions. And for women learning to leave first, not in panic, not in hysteria, but on time. Filed Early became more than just a blog, it's a platform. We do podcasts, live events, and soon mentoring sessions. I'm not saving the world, I'm just helping those who decided one day they wouldn't wait to be saved anymore. You know, when you live by someone else's script, everything seems right on paper. But life isn't on paper, and now, finally, it's mine. He texted on Saturday. At 11:43 a.m. Zach. From his old number. No emojis, no greeting, just, can we talk? Like adults. I looked at the screen, holding my coffee mug, the latte art already blurred. And for the first time in a long while, I didn't have to be angry or defensive or convince myself to be strong. I just hit reply and wrote, we are talking. Through lawyers. Sent, and muted the conversation. The talk was over, not out of anger, out of maturity. That evening, I went back to where it all began. The same restaurant on Pearl Street, Portland. The same live music, the same warm lighting. But now at the table, not Zach's parents. Not him with his theatrical pause and poorly rehearsed speech. But my team, my real family. Those building filed early with me. Jenna, an analyst who left a top marketing position. Rachel, a former lawyer from Atlanta, the very one who once wrote me, cold is better than broken. And Lucy, the youngest, 24, the first in her family to leave a toxic marriage. We order champagne and pasta. Someone laughs so loudly the waiter smiles back. I raise my glass. To all of us, who left not to run away but to walk into who we really are. They nod, and Lucy's fingers tremble. She whispers, no one ever toasted me before. I look at her and realize, that's the real strength. Not in loud victories, but in simply being there when no one expects you. We leave late. I linger at the entrance. Slowly look up at the same restaurant sign. Where there once was an ending, now there's a beginning. The camera pulls back. I walk down the street, the wind playing with my hair. The street lights reflect in the windows. Zach is no longer in frame. He's not in the story anymore. He's the old scene. I am the new chapter. I start a voice memo on my phone. For the next podcast. I say, I wasn't left behind, I was just caught up to. I walked forward too long, too quietly, too deeply. Now I'm not someone's shadow. Now I am the light. The screen goes dark. On it, the logo. Filed early. For those who didn't wait to break,